Chicano Ideas YouTube channel. I am Rudy Tecolo. Look up my Facebook, which is Chicano Community, and my Instagram is famouswolf.24. So this is a list I want to read off when I used to do my studying. It's like dates that I would help me remember. Not no details, but dates that I felt like that were important to know. The makings of North America between the United States and Mexico. So we could start off with 1492. Christopher Columbus landed in the Bahamas, which is North Puerto Rico and Jamaica and all those islands. So in 1519, Hernan Cortez landed in Mexico. In 1521, he conquered Tenochtitlan. And after conquering Tenochtitlan, he moved around, and New Spain, was most of North America for a while. And so the 13 colonies was only the East Coast. And in 1619, black Africans were starting to be brought to North America to help work on the cotton fields, to replace the natives, because the natives were, like most people know, dying of smallpox and resisting slavery. And it was just too much and too little of them to keep up the demand. So from 1619, of when black Africans started to be brought in to help form, the North American continent, and especially the United States. Let's jump like 100 years to 1776, when, the 13 colonies got separation and independence from Britain and became its own little country. So that was in 1776. So in 1810, Mexico got its independence from New Spain, and that was, all of the west coast of the United States now down. That's 1810. So let's jump back a little bit to 1769 to 1833 is when the priest Francis Sierra ordered, the spread of Christianity, and that's when missionaries were being built across California and throughout part of, southern United States. And that's a part of colonialism, taking away babies and native babies of Mexicans or the United States, building these missionaries and raising them in these Christian church and these Catholic church. So that was from 1769 to 1833. So even starting from New Spain all the way into Mexico conquered New Spain, these churches were still being ran. And so let's jump to 1817, when the USA started the Removal Act of Native Americans. And the most famous one of the Removal Act is the Trail of Tears, which the Trail of Tears was from 1836 to 1840. And all these, if you don't know, this was a part of, which is known as the South of the United States. They were moving all of the native tribes out to the Midwest. So, Anglos, Europeans could, have land and start coming down from, which is the East Coast of the United States, more into Georgia and all this Florida, because, they started gaining more land from Spain. If you know, Florida and all that was Spain. So that was from 1817 to 1850 was the Removal Act of Native Americans. While this was happening, in 1848, the Treaty of Guadalupe happened, which Mexico lost to the United States, the West Coast. So that was in 1848. And let's jump some to 1863 is when the emancipation of procrastination happened. So that was in 1863, the emancipation. And in 1865, the 13th Amendment became official for the emancipation to be a legitimate law that, you can't treat blacks this way or browns this way, brown people. And then let's jump 5 years from 1865 to 1870. A guy named Lieutenant Richard Henry Pratt began the reservation of boarding schools, of which these boarding schools from 1870 all the way to the 1890s to they were had, it's the same thing as, the missionary schools. They took natives of United States tribes and, bred them the European way, put them in boarding schools since they were young kids, and they would live there until they were like teenagers, and they were, colonized, simulated into this European Anglo state of mind. So that was from 1870 to 1890. And again, starting in 1870 through 1965 was the Jim Crow law, which also started in 1870 along the side of reservation boarding schools. And you could say in 1890, which I didn't write down, but I know the in the 1890s, the immigrant, or it wasn't called that then, but the border patrol started, which was to keep Chinese and Japanese people out, Asian people, one of those two, out from coming across Mexico, which most people don't know. That's a whole nother story. But in the Immigration Act of 1917 became in effect. And then from 1910 through 1920 was the Mexican Revolution. And then U.S. Border Patrol became an official, a part of the federal government as an agency in 1924. And in 1924 also, some Native American tribes gained United States citizenship. And starting from 1929 through, the 1939 was the deportation of Mexicans. The Mexican deportation, which most people know about. They blame it, the bankruptcy and the Great Depression on Mexicans taking people's jobs. And most of those Mexicans were Chicanos, so-called American citizens that was sent back across the border. That was from, and so the and in 1968, Black Americans won citizenship. So, this is a brief little rundown of dates of the making of the United States and between Mexico. Because it's always, this is how, we were a part of this, our people. This is why we are the way we are. We are manufactured as being Americanized or Spaniardized. As I always say, I never give thanks to America. Oh, I'm thankful to be here on not the European Anglo way of life of them colonizing us, because we were already here, so they always need to thank us for being here. We were, like I just read, put in missionary schools. We were simulated. We were social conditioning, colonized in this European state of mind. Reservation boarding schools for our people from the 1870s. All these laws and all this stuff that we went through that I read, starting from when Europeans started coming here onto this continent and taking advantage of some of our people who were there for them and helped them, and yet turned their backs and kept taking from us. So, to me, I say the United States system always has to thank us. They need to be thankful for them being here. We don't need to thank them. Like I say, we had more intelligence than Europeans. They were just grimy. They brought disease, which weakened our people because we would have had numbers to fight back. And yet, some of the stories of, giving blankets to our people who treated them well, and they, the false story of Thanksgiving. But other than that, that was just some dates that I wanted to read off. Culture is power, history is knowledge, and that's all I want to share. So peace out, Chicanos. Uh-oh.